Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the long wait, I've been a little bit busy, but we're finally back with a review for Marvel's The Eternals. So before we get into my review of what I think about The Eternals, I just want to promote my new book called The Chimera Prophecies and Other Short Stories. If you're a fan of science fiction, short stories like Philip K. Dick and Isaac Asimov and such, be sure to check out my new book, The Chimera Prophecies and Other Short Stories, available on Amazon. Go ahead and check it out now. So let's get into my review for Marvel's Eternals. So I like the opening scene of this movie. We get to see the Eternals fighting the Deviants, which is really a lot of fun, I think. And it kind of gives you the setup for who these Eternal kind of characters are. Now I know a lot of people didn't really care for the Eternals movie when it came out. I liked it when it first came out. It has the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score for any Marvel movie, but I enjoyed it, and I could see why people maybe didn't like it because it's not your typical Marvel movie. It's very, very different, but I still think it's pretty decent if you watch it and you take it for what it is and kind of disconnect it from the overall MCU a little bit. It's still pretty good. So anyway, so the opening scene is really cool. You get you gotta get to see the Eternals. There's 10 Eternals, so you get the 5 Protector Eternals that fight the Deviants because they have the battling type powers, and then you get like the 5 Humanitarian Eternals that help progress society and culture and stuff like that. And so we're just gonna go down the Eternals real quick. So you get Phastos, who designs technology, and Ajax is the healer and also the leader. Druig can control minds and influence people's thoughts. Sprite is an illusionist and kind of uses it to tell stories, which is cool. Cersei can transform matter, and she seems to be like the most involved with humans. Like she wants to be a part of the world. Makkari is a speedster. I love Makkari. Icarus is basically your Superman. He can fly. He can shoot lasers at his eyes. He's super strong. Kingo shoots like energy blasts out of his hands. Like he can like store energy and shoot them out of his hands. He's like doing a bunch of gun moves. And then Gilgamesh has like super strong fists or something. He's like the boxer. And then Thena can create like swords and shields and like uses that to battle. And so, those are kind of their power sets. And I feel a little bad for Druig and Phastos because they're always told they can't really use their powers that much, to interfere with human progress. Like Druig points out, like he can just control everybody's minds and like make all this war go away, and Phastos wants to like progress technology beyond what they were, but so they're always being told like you can't do that, and so then it's like, well, what are they here for then? It's like why are they here? If they can only do little bits. And so I kind of feel bad for them. They don't get to use their powers as much. I do love the visuals for Makkari as a speedster. Like her super speed powers I think are awesome. It's like, and how she uses it to fight. I really like that. I think it's one of the better portrayals of a speedster, and kind of is a more unique version of, because we have so many speedsters now that we've seen on screen, and I like this version of how they portray her speed powers. I thought it was really cool, and I love Makkari. She's really fun, and she might be my new favorite speedster hero, I think. And then Ajax she's the Prime Eternal, and she's like the motherly figure, and she's also the one that gets to speak with Arishem, the Celestial, and so she's the one that knows the true plan for Earth. And so and she knows this because and she's done this. She knows that they've done this, for millions and millions of years. Like she's the only one that knows the actual truth. And Arishem is a Celestial, which, we've got kind of hints of before in the MCU. Nowhere, the planet in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, was the deadhead of a Celestial. Ego, Peter's father, mentioned, he calls himself a Celestial. And this movie just kind of elaborates on a little bit more of what the Celestial is and the overall cosmos of the MCU and how the Celestials all play into the universe and stuff. And so it's a little, we do get like a big exposition dump from Arishem, which is where he explains everything to Cersei, which is interesting, but I think it's also a little too much. It's a little too much, cosmology and philosophy and stuff, and clashes with religious beliefs and everything, and so I can see why maybe this movie is a little too much for some people to take in terms of, the universe and stuff. But the Eternals, we find out, were created to fight the Deviants, and they see that the planets follow a plan, which is to birth a new Celestial, and Earth was chosen to birth the Celestial Tiamat. And Arishem then reveals to Cersei that all the Eternals are essentially just organic robots that he's programmed to fight the Deviants, because he created the Deviants, but then they got evolved and lost control and out of their chaos and stuff. So Arishem says the Celestials are what create galaxies and universes, and that's what they need. They need to create new Celestials out of host planets in order to keep the cosmos universe in balance, basically. Because if they don't, the universe will die. Which, again, I think that's maybe a little too extreme, and again, I think just kind of clashes with what we all think of the universe and everything, so it might be a little too heavy in that sense. I find that this whole cosmological philosophy, creates this existential crisis for Cersei, and I don't know how people feel about it, and I can understand why. It doesn't really bother me that much, but it is a little too heavy for the movie, kind of to just throw all this at us in this one movie, and to say this exists within the whole MCU and it has the whole time it's a little too much to take. And it's a little too grandiose in design, and it creates, I think, too many problems to say that Earth's purpose this whole time was to just die so that a Celestial could be born. I just think that's a little too much, but that's the movie. So throughout the movie, we get flashbacks of how the Eternals have helped humanity progress over the years, thousands of years, I think 7,000 years. And, they've impacted culture, society, aspects of civilization throughout time and everything. And I kind of like seeing that. And in the present day, the Eternals have been scattered, and Cersei is in a relationship with Jon Snow. Dane Whitman, a.k.a. the Black Knight. Meanwhile, her ex-lover, Robb Stark, Icarus, has come back to help gather up all the Eternals since the Deviants have reemerged. And so one by one, we round up all the Eternals, along with, we get Kingo and then his little valet, Karun, who I think is a great character. I love Karun. I love the joke about how he, was going to stab him for being a vampire. That's great. So let's go through all the characters of the Eternals. So I will say, Cersei is kind of like the main character of the movie. We start with her, and she's the one that pushes the journey of the story and progresses, and she was selected to talk to Arishem. And while I like Gemma Chan as an actress, she was, had a small role in Captain Marvel. I do think Cersei, the character, is just really one note and very dull. Gemma Chan had more personality in her character from Captain Marvel than she does in this movie. She just doesn't really have any emoting to do. She doesn't really do anything. I don't feel she had any feelings for Icarus or Dane Whitman. I don't really get anything from her as a character. She's just kind of there, being thrust into all of this stuff. And I think it's, it makes it hurts the movie to have such a boring main character, in my opinion, since she's the main focus. Maybe some people do like her as a character. I thought she was boring. And that's a problem for me in this movie. Icarus, he's not much better, but he's also kind of bland. But I did like the reveal of him being the villain, which I thought worked well. It's complicated, and the heartbreaking for all of the Eternals. And his relationship with Sprite and everything. And I like that he is conflicted about what he wants to do, and so he flies into the sun. A little too on the nose. The Legend of Icarus, but I do like that. He in the end, he will not kill the woman that he loves. But he also cannot live with having failed the mission. So he flies into the sun. So it is, there's a little bit of a nice sort of character arc in the end for Icarus, but I do think he is a little bit bland also. Kingo I like. Kingo's fun. Kumail Nanjiani does a good job in the role. He's a lot of fun. He's fun when he needs to be. He's serious when he needs to be. And again, I really like Karun the valet. I think they play off each other really well. The joke about Karun mistaking him for a vampire and staking him through the heart is really funny. So I like everything that we get with Kingo. And I like that also Kingo will not fight his family, even if they're going against what he believes in. So there is some sort of interesting debates here, philosophical debates about what the Eternals should be doing in the end. And I like that Kingo, even though I wish I would have seen him in the fight, but I do like that he takes that a different stance and a different approach in the end. Phastos is an okay character. I like that he gets to use his powers to join in the fight at the end against Icarus. That's fun. It's also heartbreaking when he sees how people use the atomic bomb during World War II and how that broke him and he gave up on humanity. And he also has a good sense of humor. So Phastos is an okay character. Druig is fine. Also, I do understand his complaint about having this power to control and influence people, but also being told he just can't use it. He has to stand by and watch people do horrible things. Like, that is terrible. But I also love his relationship with Makkari. They're super cute together. So Druig's okay. Makkari, she might be my new favorite speedster. I love Makkari. I think the actress does a great job in the role. She's charming, charismatic, she's fun. I love how they use her speed, and I think she's super powerful when she goes up against Icarus. I love that in the end. So yeah, I just love Makkari. I wish we got more of her. I hope we see more of her in the future. And I really like Gilgamesh. I am sad that he got killed about halfway through, but he was a fun character, and I love how he cares for Athena and the relationship. And it's never really clear whether it's like super like romantic between them or if it's like just platonic love. I like that sort of ambiguity that they have. The idea that love doesn't always have to be romantic, but I think he does love her. And if they do an Eternal sequel, I hope they find a way to bring back Gilgamesh, because they are robots. There's like a factory of them, and I like the actor. That I think he did a great job. So I like Gilgamesh. Sprite, while I don't like her turn at the end, I do like Sprite as a character. I think the young actress does a good job. I feel her pain and longing to just want to grow up. She feels very much like Peter Pan, and she doesn't want to be a kid forever. Like, she's the opposite of Peter Pan, right? Like, she is stuck as a kid, this little sprightly kid, but she doesn't want to be a kid forever. She wants to grow up. She wants to live, fall in love, have kids, live a life. And so what I like about most of these characters is that they all have like these internal struggles that they're dealing with, except Cersei. So I do like Sprite, and I like that she uses her illusions to tell these elaborate stories and everything. That's really cool. I also like Athena. I was nervous about Angelina Jolie in the beginning of the role. I thought maybe she would kind of like take over or something, but she actually does a really good job here. She kind of takes a back seat. She's not the main character, but she does a lot of kicking ass in the fight scene. She's really awesome. I love the sort of conflict that she has of this mad weary and everything. And I really I was really impressed with her in the role. I really liked her, and I liked seeing her. I liked her powers and going up against Icarus and everything at the end. I thought that was really good. And again, giving this was like mental disease. Was kind of an important aspect that separates her from the other Eternals. So I really liked that. And then finally, Ajax. There's not much of her in this movie because she gets killed, but and she doesn't really do much. And honestly, the first time I watched the movie, I had no idea she had healing powers. It wasn't until the second time I watched it that I figured it out. But I do love Salma Hayek in the role. She really does come off as this kind, warm, motherly figure. But she also puts Icarus in his place. Like, when Icarus is like, should we question Arishem? And she's like, know your place, Icarus. So I do like that, and I wish we did get a little bit more of Ajax, because I think she was an interesting character. And I like when we get Phastos, Makkari, and Athena fighting Icarus at the end. I think that's a fun fight scene, it's a good ending. Icarus deciding not to kill Cersei again. It goes back to what Kingo says, when he chose to leave. He refuses to hurt his family for his beliefs, and so I like that Icarus makes that same sort of choice when he confronts Cersei. He just can't do it because he loves her. But he also can't live with himself for what he did to Ajax and for failing the mission, so he flies into the sun. It's not a huge redemption arc, but it's a little bit, something. Sprite, I think she just kind of gets away with it because she is kind of still a kid, I guess, or I don't know why they instantly forgive Sprite. They don't really go into that. But the one thing I don't understand is Cersei's powers. Earlier in the movie, it said that she can't use her transformation powers on organic matter. But then she turns a deviant into a tree. So I'm curious why it's never explained what the change was. Like, what caused her to make that change. Or if she could have turned organic matter, but she just never did for some reason. Like, my guess is that after she got the little golden orb thing in her chest that Ajax gave her, that connects her to Arishem, maybe that amplifies her powers. That's the only thing I could think of. Because at the end, she says that she, was able to tap into Tiamat's power in order to amplify her powers. And that's why she can change Sprite into a human. But I mean, that's only if you're really paying attention. Otherwise, Cersei's powers really aren't explained of why she can, do that. And then also there's a dead statue of a celestial sticking out of the ocean, and we never talk about that. So, I mean, and then we get the ending with Arishem looking over Earth, and also we never talk about that going forward. I think we need to see what this exposure of the Celestials does to humanity. How does that change people's faith and religion? Are people out there mining Tiamat? Because I think she turned into like marble or something. What effect does this, the events of this movie have on the overall MCU? We haven't addressed any of that since this movie, any project since this movie. And I'm not sure if that's a timeline issue. Like, I'm not sure where it clearly takes place after Endgame, because they mentioned that. So I'm not really sure where that is. So while I do like this movie, I think it's better than people give credit for. It's very different for a Marvel movie. That's not a bad thing. One thing I'll say though is this movie doesn't feel very grounded. Like, with all the celestial stuff, it just feels like we're retconning things by saying, oh, the Eternals have been on Earth all along, and oh, the Celestials, are birthed out of Earth, and having the Celestials be a thing that literally gives life to the entire cosmos just seems a bit much. And, the idea that the Celestial seed is inside Earth this whole time, again, it's just not really grounded, And, I mean, I did study geology for, years before I switched to an English major and became a writer. So I do know a little bit about geology. And I'm pretty sure that a celestial breaking through the Earth's crust, and given the size of him, how much of Tiamat is underneath, that would mess up the entire balance of Earth's geology. The Earth's core is what gives us our magnetic field, which is what blocks a lot of the sun exposure, the radiation. And so I'm pretty sure the Tiamat sticking out of the ground and being under the Earth would just throw all that out of balance. And so, I mean, that's just my nerdy side. But that's what I mean. It's it doesn't feel grounded in Earth anymore, like a reality, And so that's kind of what Phase 4 has been. They have thrown all of, reality out of the window. I guess it's the multiverse saga or whatever. But, I mean, that has nothing to do with, manipulating reality. It's not the Reality Stone. So now that we have these Celestials and multiverses and different dimensions, like Ta Lo and the Noor dimension, and just none of this is explained, or does never explain how it fits into what we've established as the MCU. So, I mean, that's just an overall criticism of Phase 4 as a whole, but this movie kind of plays into that, and so I do think that is a big problem of Phase 4, is it no longer feels grounded anymore. And that's kind of a bit of a disconnect, I think, for audiences. It's like, the first Iron Man movie, you believed he could create a metal suit, We bought into even Thor, the God of Thunder, but this is all just a little too much. Anyways, but there are a few things in here that, does connect it to the MCU. At one point, Gilgamesh mentions the Eternals helped Odin fight Laufey in Tonsberg, which is the opening prologue in the first Thor movie, so that's kind of cool. I think, and then Kingo also mentions Thor as well. Sprite mentions that Steve Rogers and Tony Stark are gone. Again, the movie takes place after Endgame, and they mention Thanos and the blip. And so I'm not sure how far after Endgame. My guess is not too long. Maybe around the time of Spider-Man Far From Home. That's my guess. Because after Spider-Man Far From Home is Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's when Doctor Strange creates the multiverse spell, and that's when we start getting all the multiverse stuff. So my questioning is, maybe this is before all of that, but I'm not 100% sure. So overall, I do think this is a good movie. The action is okay. There's not a whole lot of action. It's, standard Marvel fare. I do like seeing these new power sets, which I think is pretty cool, and how they're used. I like a lot of the Eternals characters, and I like the sort of globe-trotting nature of, we're going here, we're going there, collecting all these characters. I like that. I always find those type of stories fun. I like movies that do that. I think Cersei is kind of a bit boring, and everything with the Celestials is just a bit too out of this world, literally. It's not something that, you know, we as people can connect with, and again, it's not explained well enough as to how it fits in within the MCU. But I think people should give this movie like a second shot. You should watch it again, just kind of temper your expectations of this is not your classic Marvel superhero movie. You know, it's more of a philosophical movie. And if you don't like that, then I understand. I totally understand. There are problems with that. But I still think it's a decent movie, and I do like a lot of the characters. So those are my long thoughts on the Eternals. I think it's good, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you like it, like me, or are you one of those people that gave it a rotten tomato? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next review. Hopefully, I will get around to watching the Hawkeye show again, and I could do my reviews for that. I'm not going to do What If. I decided I won't do any of the animated stuff. That's just a little too much, and it doesn't really affect the actual MCU. So, stay tuned to the channel, and until next time, Druk sucks. Bye.